Where is R2 when I need him? Sir, I don't know where your ship learned to communicate, but it has the most peculiar dialect.
For those of you who don't remember, it's actually L337 from Solo who's the brain of the Falcon. So when 3PO says the Falcon has a peculiar dialect, that does line up. L3 was a weird-ass droid. You know, good for Leia. She's a princess who's not only leading a rebellion, she knows how to use a blaster, and she can do some mechanical work too.
Stop that.
Stop what?
Stop that. My hands are dirty.
My hands are dirty too. What are you afraid of?
It's not very often that Star Wars has really good dialogue. Well, frankly, the entire franchise either has really bad dialogue or just some goofy dialogue. But this scene here is so well written and so well acted. We needed more of this.
Sir, I've isolated the reverse power flux coupling.
This movie is just so funny. I love it. I love how an entire Star Destroyer was just destroyed along with its captain and no one seems to care. Vader doesn't give a shit at all.
What is thy bidding, my master?
It's time for me to go on my great hologram rant. Almost every time in Star Wars we get a communication via hologram, it's always just from one perspective. Like here we only see Vader looking at this giant head of the Emperor. But if this movie were to hypothetically switch to Palpatine's perspective, what would we see? Is Palpatine looking down at a very small version of Vader? Would it be like the hologram of Vader we saw earlier in the movie in the AT-AT? Also, does that mean from Vader's perspective earlier in the movie he was looking at a giant head of this AT-AT officer? These questions become a lot more common when we get to the prequels because there are a lot of holograms in the prequels.
I have no doubt this boy is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker.
There's two things I want to mention here. The first is that this movie intends on this being the revelation to Vader that Luke is his son. Vader asks, how is this possible? But earlier in the movie when they find the rebel base, Vader was like, I'm sure Skywalker is with them. Unless he assumed that there just happened to be another kid out there who is strong with the Force and had the same name as he does, having this moment be the moment Vader finds out his son is alive is really weird. That does bring up the question. If Owen and Beru didn't raise Luke with the Skywalker name and say his name was Smith or something, does that mean Vader would never have found out Luke was his son? The assumption here is that Vader knows Luke is his son because of his last name. So in hindsight, raising Luke as Luke Skywalker saved the galaxy because Vader was redeemed by his son. Luke would have never tried to save his father if he never knew Vader was his father. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there's this comic run set after episode 4 where Vader finds out his son is alive way before the Empire Strikes Back. He decided to keep that a secret from Palpatine. So here he's just acting so Palpatine doesn't think Vader was keeping secrets from him.
If he could be turned, he would become a powerful ally.
But doesn't that go against the rule of two? Or is Palpatine just okay with Vader having a Sith apprentice for some reason?
Mostly because of my father, I guess.
Father? For Jedi was he?
Realistically, Yoda would have said, father, he was this annoying slave boy who I repeatedly said should not be allowed into the Jedi Order. But because Qui-Gon Jinn died, I agreed to let him in. If I had just stuck with my guts, then the fall of the Republic would have never happened and I wouldn't be living in this slimy mud hole.
Much anger in him. Like his father.
Was I any different when you told me?
I would say you were pretty different. You didn't have much anger when you were younger, Obi-Wan. If anything, you were quite wise for your age.
Excitement. Jedi craves not these things.
I'm gonna offer a small critique of this movie. I know this is heresy because this is one of the best movies ever made, but I'm just giving my honest thoughts. Why does Luke want to become a Jedi? When Yoda asks him, Luke just says because of his father mostly. I don't find that to be a deep enough character motivation. It's a serviceable one. Is it because Luke, as far as he's aware, has no family left, so becoming a Jedi is his only connection to that? Everything that Yoda describes sounds miserable. I wouldn't want to become a Jedi. I would have liked a bit more personal motivation from Luke here. Maybe it fulfills a need to be important, something he craved in the first movie. I would have just liked something more than, I want to become a Jedi because my father was one.
He is too old. Yes, too old go to begin the training.
I'm curious what Yoda's intentions were here in saying this. It's either one of two options. He's either telling Luke he's too old to be trained as another test for Luke, or he's serious and he doesn't want to train Luke. If that's the case, then doesn't that go against the entire plan since Revenge of the Sith? Like, if he wasn't convinced, would Yoda seriously refuse to train Luke because he was too old?
You will be. You will be.
There was always something so haunting about this line. Luke saying he's not afraid and Yoda telling him he would be. It was such a mysterious line that I think works. Wow, even being inside a giant worm that is inside an asteroid has the same gravitational pull as normal planets. That's crazy. Now that I think about it, if the air outside is unsafe to breathe, then all the fresh air that's inside the Falcon is getting flushed out because they kept the bay door open. Unless there's some sort of ray shield that keeps the oxygen in, but we've never seen that on the Falcon.
I see it, I see it.
We do.
The cave is collapsing.
Come on, Leia, that's a dumbass comment. You can clearly tell you're inside of a mouth.
Is the dark side stronger?
No. But the busier, more seductive.
I really like this answer from Yoda. There's a misconception that the dark side is stronger, but Yoda would disagree. Star Wars fans seriously need to start rewatching these movies. I get talking about Jedi's power levels is fun and all, but those discussions represent the antithesis of the Jedi. A Jedi uses his power for knowledge and defense, never for attack. It's a shame that these same fans are the ones who wanted to see Luke take out a laser sword and destroy the entire First Order in the sequels.
Weapons. You will not need them.
It's insane how people misinterpret Luke's arc in this movie so badly. Fans will go out of their way to criticize Rey because she appeared to be naturally stronger with the Force than Luke, but that's not true. The reason Rey appeared stronger in her 3 movies compared to Luke was because Luke did not trust in the Force. On so many occasions in these training scenes, we see Luke refuse to trust the Force. This scene where he brings his weapons into the cave after Yoda told him not to is one example. The same thing happens when Luke is trying to lift the X-Wing. Rey doesn't have that same issue. She has other issues. This is why Luke's arc in Return of the Jedi is so powerful, because he finally had complete faith in the Force, and that was the reason he was able to save his father. Luke, Anakin, and Rey all struggled with different things. Stop comparing them and their strength in the Force as if they're all the same character. I love the ambiguity of this scene. Is this foreshadowing Luke is related to Vader? Is this a metaphor for the dark side inside Luke? I wish Star Wars would do more of this.
My lord, we have them.
Only real Star Wars fans can name every bounty hunter in this scene. It's so funny seeing Boba Fett here after watching his return in the Mandoverse. I'm not trying to fat shame Tamora Morrison, but this Boba Fett here is just so much thinner than the one in the shows.
1, 2, 3.
Just a thought, is the Falcon too fast to trap in a tractor beam? We saw a Star Destroyer do it to the Tantive V4 in the first scene of the entire saga. Also, the Death Star was able to trap the Falcon in a tractor beam from a much further direction. The Empire should consider doing that here.
No ship that small has a cloaking device. Well, there's no trace of them, sir. Captain, Lord Vader demands an update on the pursuit.
I love the timing of this dialogue. It's back to back, oh, you screwed up, and Vader wants an update. It's too good. Also, it's interesting that this one guy brought up a cloaking device. We saw one in the Clone Wars, but I don't think we've seen it another time besides that. I wonder how common they are in Star Wars.
No different. Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
See, Luke's arc here is all about trusting in the Force.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
He said it.
For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is.
Ah yes, the single best explanation of the Force in the entire franchise. I wonder where this wise Yoda was during the prequels. Okay, it's time for me to go on my passionate Yoda spiel. Outside the creation of the lightsaber, the inclusion of Yoda and what he represents was the smartest decision George Lucas made with this franchise. In the first movie, we only got a glimpse of the Force. Sure, we saw Force choking and Jedi mind tricks, but for the most part, the elaboration of the Force was brief. Now we enter the second movie where Luke gets some serious training. Sure, Yoda's monologue to Luke about what the Force is was great, but what does Yoda show us? Yoda is this old, weak alien that is maybe 2 feet tall. He can barely move, he's kinda crazy, and so far hasn't shown us anything that he can do. After Luke struggles to lift an X-Wing, Yoda himself raises it from the water. Yoda physically represents the exact opposite of a great warrior, but the Force is not about how big you are. It's about discipline and faith. It's about a commitment and a trust to something larger than yourself. The exact lesson Luke needs to learn right now. Yoda doesn't just tell us what the Force is about, he shows us. Having this little green guy be the epitome of the Force was such a brilliant decision. I highly doubt anyone ever again will make a narrative decision in the Star Wars mythos that was as smart and brilliant as this idea of Yoda.
I don't believe it. That is why you fail.
That's a pretty hard line from Yoda. It's also another great summary of what it means to be strong in the Force. Belief is just as important as talent and training. Also, if you noticed in this shot, Yoda is standing on a rock of some sort, clearly above ground level, but when he began raising the X-Wing, he was just standing on the ground. He could have moved off screen, but it doesn't seem likely.
Apology accepted.
And people say Vader doesn't make puns. A surprising amount of people missed this next point apparently. The last time we saw this officer, he said he was going to apologize to Vader personally. So here Vader kills him and says, "Apologies accepted." Another badass moment from Vader.
Don't fail me again, Admiral.
Only Darth Vader can turn a promotion into a threat. Oh, you're promoted? That means you're next on the chopping block. Why anyone would want to work for the Empire is baffling. There are a handful of Star Destroyers here, and you're telling me not one of them happened to see the Falcon on the backside of the bridge? Even in this shot, they are in the line of sight of other Star Destroyers. Typical Imperial incompetence.
Card player, gambler, scoundrel, you'd like him.
Another great line from Han. I gotta give the writers credit in this movie, he is just so charming. Is escaping through trash a common thing people do? If not, Boba Fett must have read the script to know where Han and Leia would be.
Ought to serve them best. If you leave now, help them you could, but you will destroy all for which they have fought.
I don't get this line. Sure, I get Luke is giving it to fear by saving his friends, but why would going to save them destroy everything they fought and suffered for? Click on the link here to watch Overanalyzing Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back Part 4. If you don't see the link, the video hasn't come out yet. Thank you everyone so much for watching another one of my videos. Don't forget to unite the Clod Squad, and I will see you guys next time.